Hello and welcome to Advocacy Unfiltered, the podcast run by students for students. I'm Ricardo Miranda. Today we're here with Arif, Vice President of Alpha Lambda Mu and a community member of the Muslim Student Association, and Tanya, the Civic Engagement Director in the Office of External Affairs and the Director of Student Orgs in Student Council of ERC. Both of them are running in this year's AS election. Would you guys like to mention what you're running for, why you're running?
Hi, I'm Tanya. I'm an ERC student and I'm running for campus-wide senator. And I would say one of the main reasons that I'm running is to represent and reflect all the diverse perspectives of all students at UCSD and also really bridge that gap between AS and the student body.
Yeah.
Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Arif. I'm a third-year student at UC San Diego, majoring in molecular and cell biology, and I'm running for international senator. As a third-year Malaysian student, and I'm an international student. I'm on a student visa. I'm passionate about this idea of advocacy and rights within our community, and to ensure that the voices of international students and their rights are represented.
You guys talked about rights and representation, and I feel, for me, it might be different for you, that those go hand in hand with activism and just being there for social justice and social change for our students. So I would just like to ask you, what does activism mean to you? What does representing people mean to you?
To me, activism is more than just posting on Instagram or just I don't know, saying that you'll do something but not actually showing up and doing something. I think something that I really appreciate about our slate, about Pillars, is that all these people have been in the community, and you can tell everyone is really passionate and has actually made connections and actually went out and talked to people. I think that is the most important thing, showing up to gatherings, showing up to meetings, also donating, putting your money where your mouth is if you have the privilege to do that. And also knowing that activism is a continuous conversation. You can't just turn it off or on. I think also just continuing to create conversation. I would say even just sometimes I talk to my parents and we have different views, and I will try to educate them on that, because I think just continuing to have that conversation and not shying away from actually talking to people is what activism really is. And just I think putting yourself out there and connecting with people is the main way that you will connect with people and also be able to fight for yourself or fight for others and also represent other students.
Absolutely beautiful, Tanya. And I agree with everything that you said, especially of the fact that we're fighting against this idea of armchair activism, where you're not from that community, you're not talking to the people, and yet you're over here trying to quote-unquote prescribe them with their rights, which is not the most ideal thing in the world. And sometimes we don't actually understand what the needs of the community, right? And for me personally, just to answer your question, Ricardo, to me, activism is my heart and soul. I was born and raised as a Muslim in Malaysia, which is kind of a Muslim majority country, and over there we are taught and how Islam and our faith is an essential part of our faith. And I kind of took it for granted throughout my time in Malaysia until I came to America, where my people are a minority. You barely see any Malaysians. I founded the Malaysian Student Association actually back in my freshman year. And also the Muslim students, we're not the biggest group on campus. We're a pretty decent group, but we're not the biggest groups on campus. And over the past 20 or 30 years, Muslims have always been, in America at the very least, on the defensive after everything that happened. Post 9/11, we've always been targeted. Even post October 7th and every other conflict that happened in Palestine, and even previous situations, including the Irvine 11 controversy, all the way back in 2013, the Muslims have always been on the defensive, right? So, part of my faith has an understanding of the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Find me among the downtrodden." Our Prophet in Islam has a love for the people who are oppressed. He loved for the people who are oppressed, and we are taught to constantly fight for the right of the people. In another narration that the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, he said that the greatest struggle in Islam is speaking truth to power. So that is one reason why you see me and a lot of people within the Muslim Student Association are constantly fighting for the rights of other people, because we don't believe in oppression. We believe in fighting against oppressors, and we want to ensure that we are creating a better world for everyone around us. And for me, that is what motivates me to kind of ensure that I do my activism even within a lot of pushback from the people around me.
That was amazing. Truly, truly. But something that really stuck with me is your words of people power, because that's really what matters. You know, decades ago, 1986 specifically, the UCs helped take down apartheid because of people power, because students were there. They were activating themselves to fight against something that they saw as wrong. They were educated upon, and they chose to tackle as an issue. We, the students, us sitting here, could be that same set of people. Students fighting against oppression, against genocides, against the greatest issues in our world, and actually creating active change. That's what activism is to me. It's about not just educating other people, but educating yourself. Being able to learn, being able to have an open mind and see that our world has a lot of disgusting things. Our world has a lot of things that are made to attack you and to belittle you, to victimize you. But you have to take that all off and just keep moving forward. Allow yourself to see that these issues have solutions. They have ways that they can be tackled, and we can help implement those. My journey with activism started, I can't even remember, but I was maybe 5, you know? I've always seen issues in my community, especially as Inglewood is getting gentrified even more and more now that we have our SoFi Stadium, so football, Intuit Dome, basketball, we have the Forum, we have the YouTube Theater. All of this is coming in, and I'm grateful for the jobs, for the business that's coming in. But our system in Inglewood, our mayor, only cares about business, doesn't care about the people. They're closing down almost every single public school we have in the city to make apartments. I haven't seen a single one of those apartments be built. The schools are just closed and are there, just empty buildings where students could be. All of the schools are combining into one. There used to be Monroe, Woodrow, and Worthington. Now there's one called Woodrow Monroe Worthington School. And all of these students are pushed there. All of these teachers are pushed there into a confined space. And it's just, I've been working with our school board trying to figure out how we can reopen these schools. We can bring them back because these students need that education. And for me, it all comes back to, I'm a first-gen student, the child of immigrants. I'm a Latino. And I've seen what gentrification does to my town. And it just comes back to trying to ungentrify while not pushing these people out, bringing back that community, bringing back that people power while uplifting the people who are coming in, because we have to be thankful, these jobs, these people are coming to help us, to uplift our economy. So where did your guys' journeys with activism start? I know you talk about a lot about religion, but where were you first put in a position where you had to fight for something?
All right, thank you. That's an absolutely beautiful question. And now I have to go down memory lane and actually think about it. But yes, I do have an answer. So it didn't really start when I was living back in Malaysia, because like I said, you live in a country where there's not really clear oppression happening. You take a lot of things for granted. Your rights are kind of managed, right? It kind of give you a stark reminder. But once I moved to America, I see a lot of these things happening. Working within the Muslim Student Association, I see how difficult it is for people to practice our faith. It's because throughout my freshman year, I hear so many stories of our sisters who wears the hijab on their face getting harassed by people, especially at protests. I hear a lot of these stories of dudes with beards who experiences some level of workplace harassment whenever they go to work. Some of my friend actually, just because he had a beard, actually got removed from his job because people immediately assume that he is someone who does A, B, C, D. And it becomes disheartening, because from back then, the people that I know who have all of these characteristics were treated like normal people. We coexist with people who are non-Muslims. Malaysia is only 60% Muslims. It's not the majority. It is the majority, but it's not the huge majority. But still, at the same time, we were able to coexist with other people around us. Yet here in America, because of the fact that we're a minority, we're constantly being oppressed. We're constantly being put down, and that's kind of something that started to change the way I view things within America. I also kind of got a hint back when I was a kid, because I watched this Bollywood movie called My Name is Khan, which kind of just shows how what Muslims kind of experienced post 9/11. It wasn't a very interesting movie, but it didn't really stuck to me back then, but it stuck to me when I actually moved to America and realized These aren't just things that just happen in like a Bollywood movie with Shah Rukh Khan, but it is something that generally happens with real life people. And what really kind of pushed me in a way over the edge is once I start seeing how Palestine advocacy work within the U.S. Because I see people who don't just treat Palestinian advocacy with a sense of like, yo, this is happening and I care about it, but they treat it with like a level of urgency, understanding that that's their family member, that's their people, their cousins are getting killed left and right, and they're just getting the calls. Like I had a friend may Allah bless his soul and his cousin soul, whose cousin was killed, like shot by an IDF soldier at a checkpoint on the day of Eid. That's horrendous. And the fact that these people are constantly living through these realities every single day, and I'm right here, came all the way from Malaysia, and I enjoy peace and blessings and just being able to practice my religion freely, that kind of pushes me over the edge, because like, how am I gonna sit here and do nothing, right? So that's really one of the things that really helped me understand this idea of activism. And I'm like, I'm not going to back down, no matter what happens within my space.
That was so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I would say for me, I feel like activism has like followed me my whole life. I'm like a queer woman of color. I go by she, they pronouns. I feel like I'm always like outside the box of like what is the norm. Also just like growing up and still to this day, like MLK, like I know that's kind of cringe, but like as a kid, like I would literally watch Martin Luther King Jr. speeches like all the time. I would memorize them. I just think like big like grassroots organizations or like movements have always been something that I've really loved, and I really just like people power, what you said. I feel like the only way like we can tackle an issue is to come together and have community. As someone who grew up in a city that was like majority white in the Bay, I was always made fun of for like just like the things I would bring to school for like lunch, and like they would make fun of like I don't know, just like the texture of my hair or something like that, and that made me really insecure as a child. But I think as I've grown up and like been more in tune with my culture and my community, and just like being able to make like a diverse group of like have a diverse community around me has really just like embraced my love for diversity and for difference. I feel like that's not something that you should strive away from ever, and everyone should like have the same rights. I feel like that's just like a fact of life. Also just like with seeing like recent events like Palestine, as well as protests in 2020, 2016 regarding BLM. Also just like looking right now at like this current administration and the attacks on DEI, the attacks on human rights, just has motivated me more. Also being in Sacramento last quarter is something I think that has motivated me more. Being in like the swing space where all the assembly members and state senators were, and seeing that there was actually like seeing like the higher ups in those offices, or even in the governor's office where I interned, there was not a lot of people of color, and I was like, that is an issue. Like these are people passing policies that affect like the millions of people that live in California, and the fact that like some of your policy analysis or like people who are like doing that work and meeting with people aren't really reflective of what our population looks like. That's something that was alarming. But yeah.
No, yeah, that's something scary. You know, these people have the levers of power, and they don't even represent the people that they're holding that power over. Speaking of power, you guys are running in the next AS election. I know you guys aren't running for power, but how did your love of activism and social justice push you to run and push you to choose pillars?
I would say just like my work in student government when I got to this university, and just like having events where I'm actually able to speak to the student population, especially election season with civic engagement, and like honestly being able to hear like what issues or like what concerns students have, or just like how they feel like disconnected from student government in general. I think that is something that really pushed me to want to do this. I feel like there's such a bridge between student government and the student body. Like, we are handling your fees, like $8 million, we are handling that. And if students don't know what we do and students don't know what's going on, like, that is an issue. All of this money should be going back to them, and they should be aware of all the resources available. I think, like, AS has some wonderful projects, like the gasoline assistance project, period project, stuff like that. And I feel like there's some students who just don't know about that. And I want those resources to be available to all students, just because they should be. And also, like, obviously, like, first gen, I'm someone who also, daughter of immigrants, like, I had to figure out a lot of stuff by myself. And I feel like our school and our student body and our student government should be supporting those students who maybe it's a little harder to find resources. And that's why I think really bridging that gap and letting students know that we represent them, and like we're just a representation of them and their needs, and this money is going to go directly back to them. Yeah.
Absolutely, Tanya. Because what you said kind of like remind me kind of like similar. I have kind of like a similar answer, because point being is that I have a two-pronged answer. The first prong is that when I came to UCSD, some programs, let me rephrase that properly, some programs managed by the student government genuinely helped me transitioning from coming to Malaysia, barely being able to speak English for the most part, and then coming to America, trying to figure things out, no family, no nothing, no friends, and just like trying to figure things out, right? In my freshman year, I went through some level of financial hardship, within the sense that you're not really sure how the currency exchange works, you're not really sure how much rent would cost within America, A, B, C, D, yada, yada, yada. Getting jobs are limited. As a student, for people on a student visa, you're not allowed to get any job off campus. So you have to rely on campus jobs, which are limited, right? So I was a recipient of the iTable program for 2 quarters. And for those of you not familiar, the iTable program is a program which provides some emergency funding for food and drink for international students who aren't able to kind of like support themselves for emergency funding. And because this happens a lot, simply because of the fact that international students don't have access to things like CallFresh, they don't have access to external scholarship, and they have to rely with whatever that they have. So there's that. I was personally a recipient for 2 quarters, and that helped me immensely, especially given the fact that I'm Muslim. I can't just eat anywhere I want. There's a certain level of limitation in what I can eat, and halal meat, halal chicken have a tendency to be a little bit more expensive than other quote-unquote non-halal foods for the most part, right? So those programs within AS, some of the resources genuinely helped me, and I'm truly appreciative of that. So me running for international senator today is kind of my way of giving back to the community, because this is the community that has helped me in the past, along with the Muslim Student Association and my larger community with Manara West and other people. And now it's my time to give back. That was my first idea. My second idea is that kind of like similar to what Tanya said, is that I do see that even within all of these amazing resources that's available, there's still some level of disconnect, not necessarily within AS, but also within administration and everything as a whole, because sometimes our rights are not really being thought about. Even within Ramadan, sure, you trot a few resources here and there for us Muslims, but we're still not able to do some of the things that's relevant to our culture. Like, where do we pray our Tarawih? We have constant 2 hours of night prayers that we do in congregation. Not all of us are able to go to the mosque. Where are we able to get to do this? And even when things were happening in Palestine, things were happening in Sudan, some of the emails that were sent out, some of the communication between the higher ups and the students are not really empathetic, so to speak. People don't really listen to student voices of people, of what's happening on the ground when their friends are getting arrested, when their mom and dad are constantly getting killed, and murdered, like all around the world. That level of disconnect is also there, and I do notice that's because that's one of the reasons is that we don't really have our people within the student government bodies. We have a very limited amount of Muslims that just so happen to be within AS, and that's actually a symptom of AS, of like some of our communities not really believing that those change could actually be made. So I want to change that. I want our community to understand, and I want the Greater World to understand that change could be made. Having our people representing our ideas and Muslim values and culture actually have some some weightage, some level of emphasis and importance within student government. And that is how I wish to represent my community as a Malaysian, as an international student, and as a Muslim.
And finally, so why did you guys choose pillars? And what are your pillars, like your top 3?
I chose pillars because genuinely, like, these are a bunch of crazy, passionate individuals that inspire me to be better every day. I mean, I look at our slate, people from all walks of life, from different parts of campus, people who have experience with, like, politics or student government, people who don't at all, who have a fresh eyes and a new perspective. Also, just, like, going back to what I said before, like, all of the people on the slate are, like, in the community. Like, they're like in so many things, always interacting with people, always talking with people. They're people who like are super friendly and also just like want to connect with others. Like there's that genuine passion for like connecting with others and also advocating for others. Also, I will say our slate is super diverse. Like just like looking at us, and that makes me really, really happy. Like just like looking at our like pictures and just like being in a room with you guys, it's honestly makes my heart really happy because I didn't grow up like in a room with a lot of those people sometimes, and just like I love that you all bring like a new perspective to different topics and have your own like passions that you really want to see and like changes that you really want to see. The second part of that question, what are my 3 pillars? My first one is advocating for the protection of free speech, especially in regards to protests. This new Trump administration, which is trying to ban words like DEI and words that are like very much like at the spirit of like UCSD's mission. Like DEI is something that's really important. Also just like, yeah, recent happenings with President Drake as well, and saying that like students aren't able to like gather, and also saying that students aren't able to cover their face. Like I think that's absolutely absurd. Like just for like safety reasons, if people want to do that, that's fine. Also religious reasons, like sometimes people like have to be covered. Like that's especially with this upcoming administration, that's something I really care about. Like, and that's like the whole point of university in general. Like universities have always been like grounds for protest and for free speech. Like universities are a lot of times at the forefront of these big movements. And just because students are saying something that some people may not want to hear, like doesn't mean that our rights should be hindered. My other pillar is sustainability. I would say for this generation, like climate is one of the main issues, and also our campus is like super modern, super high tech. I feel like we have the ability to make changes that will more efficiently like decrease the carbon footprint of our university. Also just like small things like wooden utensils, also just like for events, like making sure that we're getting like sustainable materials, and like making purchases that reflect that. Also, we have like gardens at most of the colleges on campus.
I think so.
Yeah, so I would say uplifting them as well. My other one, could you come back to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the basic. I very much agree with Tanya. We are a very diverse group within Pillars, and that's one thing that's absolutely beautiful about us, right? In the sense that we are everyone in Pillars are people within the community. They're not just people who just they're not just a bunch of randos who just decide to run when they know. They're within that community, they're within specific circles and community circles. They've been working with their community, trying to ensure that the rights of their community are actually consistently well taken care of, right? So that's one thing. We're not armchair activists. We are people who genuinely care about all of these issues in the first place. So that's what I think is beautiful about Pillars. The second thing that I really like about Pillars is that the idea is that all of these people, you know that they're not doing it for power. There's a level of sincerity. There's a level of ikhlas. There's a level of being genuine within these people. They are doing it because of the fact that they care about the community. They're genuinely passionate about the cause that they're fighting for, and I think that's beautiful. And there's not something that you see a lot not nowadays in most circles, to be genuinely honest, right? And in terms of my pillars, right, not too different from what Tanya said, is that I wanted to ensure that we protect students against policies hindering free speech. And now, that's the thing. The arrest of Mahmoud Khalil and Sister Rumisa created a dangerous precedent for international student and green card holders, because now these people who are in the UN, in the United States legally, even they themselves can be deported. Even they themselves can get deported simply by voicing their speech, simply by saying that I don't want people to keep getting murdered. I don't want kids to keep undergoing a genocide. And this is a huge problem. It's a huge precedent that is set back, and now it creates a lot of fear within international communities and even within circles. Even within my community, in the Muslim Student Associations, a lot of people just stop talking about Palestine simply because of the fact that they're scared of what's going to happen if they say something. And this is a bad precedent. Just because of the fact that we don't have American citizenship doesn't mean that we're not allowed to have our freedom of speech. So this is a dangerous precedent that should actually be fixed, right? So that is one of my pillars. My second pillar is basically, I kind of hinted at this, with this idea of iTable. I wanted to ensure that the iTable program is expanded. We want to expand emergency resources for international students, because the truth is some people have this idea that all international students are rich, which I wouldn't say is completely wrong. At the same time, a lot of our people are we're on a scholarship. We're not here because we have big bucks. We're here because of the fact that some organizations or government have granted us with this opportunity to be able to be here. That is my situation. My parents aren't super rich or anything. I get a scholarship from my own government in order for me to be able to even afford a ticket or a visa to America. And I'm doing this for the people who are like me, who came to America with a dream in order to ensure that they wanted to improve their social circle, they wanted to improve their financial circumstances. Yet, these very same financial obstacles are stopping them from achieving their true potential simply because of the fact that they're not even able to eat or pay their rent, right? So I wanted to ensure that we have higher level of expanded emergency resources for these international students who are facing this issue, right? And last but not least is that I want to ensure that we are constantly supporting cultural and religious organizations. Cultural and religious organizations create a beautiful diversity in our college campuses. When you walk around UCSD, there's a level of beauty that comes within it. You see people of all background and colors. You see people of all financial backgrounds in every single situation that you could absolutely ever imagine. And it's a beautiful thing to see. It's not something that you can commonly see all around the world. So I wanted to ensure that these student organizations that is constantly supporting and kind of contributing to this beautiful diversity and different voices that exist around campus, I want to ensure they achieve the support that they need in terms of the funding, in terms of the resources that we provide to them. But yes.
Awesome. My last pillar, which I spoke about briefly, was bridging the gap between AS and the student body. And I'd say specifically doing that in the expansion of basic needs. I feel like that's one of our main pillars as a slate, as a whole, expanding funding for basic needs. I specifically want to focus on uplifting and bolstering the communities that are vulnerable to this new Trump administration, specifically undocumented students, queer and trans students, and Palestinian students. I think, as I said before, we handle a huge budget. We handle all your fees. We want that money to go back to students, and reallocating that to support these communities and provide a sense of security during these times where it is a bit uncertain, and just provides stability for that. And hopefully just engaging with these marginalized communities on campus will help them realize that we as students, we as senators are here for them, that student government is a resource. We're not just some higher ups that you don't know and that are just throwing events that you don't know of, or like we're like big boss. It's nothing like that. We represent you, and also we are a resource for you. We are here for support, and we are here to provide you with anything that you might need. Yeah, I would say that is something that's really important to me.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing place to end off. I'm so grateful that you guys were able to join me and just talk about your histories and why you're running. Please remember to vote on Trident Link April 7th through 11th and vote Pillars. That is all I have for you today. Thank you for listening and fighting for us. Join us next time and have a great day. This was Advocacy Unfiltered. Unapologetic. Unstoppable.